The Rookie is a show that has many different types of episodes. Sometimes they're silly, sometimes they're sad, and sometimes they are straight up dark. And in this video, we're going over the top 5 darkest episodes in The Rookie. Starting off our list with our number 5 spot, we have Season 7, Episode 4, Darkness Falling. The episode that introduced the notorious serial killer, Liam Glasser. The majority of this episode is as normal, dealing with one-off criminals including Harrison Novak, a serial killer who would bury his victims' bodies to prevent anybody from finding them. However, after being caught, he agreed to show the LAPD where his victims were buried. That's where the twist is introduced. A couple of canines smell something from further into the field, and they find even more bodies. The twist, though, was that even Harrison was surprised by the bodies that they found. He actually didn't kill any of the people they found. This caused a massive investigation where they had to find the mysterious second serial killer. This investigation led them to Westview Psychiatric Hospital, where they were there to get files on their patients. However, while they were there, they saw a green tarp hanging from an abandoned looking building and decided to look inside. This is where the true darkness began. While searching, they hear screaming and find a victim. Lopez takes care of getting the victim out while Nyla continues going. While down there, she enters a torture chamber and is searching around it until she sees needles and is stabbed shortly after with a paralysis drug. She would have died down there if Nyla didn't scare him off and Lopez didn't find her. Thinking about what this leads to with Liam Glasser in future episodes is what lands this episode on the number 5 spot. But at number 4, we have Season 4, Episode 17, Coding. An episode that deals with a very cold and dark scenario that could have killed hundreds of people. The episode starts with a death right off the bat, with a woman dying from a single vehicle accident where she was impaled. This woman was an organ donor though, which means that a child who has been on the list for a very long time is able to get a new heart. She's about to get ready for the surgery until the hospital systems are hacked. They were hacked by a man who says that his wife must get the heart or he will shut down every system and let everyone die. This is one of the largest and grandest stakes in the history of the show. This goes on for a couple of hours, where more systems begin to fail and people start to go into critical condition, including a couple of people who begin to die. The stakes are at their highest. Eventually, with a bit of persuasion from the child, the wife decides that she can't go through with the surgery and take the life of a child and wants to wait for the next heart, shutting down the operation, or that's what the man thought. When he gave up and tried to shut down the program, the group of hackers he was working with took over and held the hospital hostage for ransom instead, prolonging the lack of care for hundreds in the hospital even longer. Luckily, Jonah coughs up who's working with him out of guilt, and they managed to get the ransomware taken down. What's even crazier is that during all of this, there was also a kidnapping case that was found in the midst of the hospital chaos, rounding out one of the darkest episodes to date. Moving on to number 3, we have Season 1, Episode 16, Greenlight. The episode that gives the audience a long and very unexpected death of a beloved character. This episode starts relatively normal, with all of the rookies going on their normal patrolling when Nolan and Bishop take a call about a valet destroying a lady's car. After the valet insults her, the lady attempts to stab the valet, and Nolan makes quick action. But in the meantime, her dress rips, and she decides to escalate the situation. What Nolan and Bishop didn't know is by escalating the situation, she means get her baby daddy to greenlight Nolan, sending the entire Southern Front to kill him. The LAPD begins to go after Cole Midas, the son of the leader of the Southern Front. They decide to put a big enough hole on the Southern Front's operation to get them to back down from the Greenlight. However, before they can manage this, Cole captures Nolan as well as Captain Anderson, a beloved character in the show as well as in the fandom too. The scene between them and Cole lasted a long 5 minutes of the episode alone. And in this scene, he kicks Anderson into the pool where she begins to drown. Nolan fights Cole to save her, but while running away, Cole shoots Anderson, and she's killed in cold blood. Luckily, the episode ends in Cole Midas being arrested by Nolan and the rest of the LAPD, but just because justice was served, that doesn't mean that this episode is any less gruesome, landing it a podium spot on this list. Now we're going to talk about the number 2 episode, which is Season 5, Episode 22, Under Siege. The episode that involves 2 near deaths of main characters, and this starts within the first minute of the episode. The episode begins with Aaron and Selena getting back home from hanging out, but decide to detour after hearing some strange noises in the alleyway. As they explore, they're confronted by a small group of masked men. These men shoot Aaron and knock Selena out, but before Selena's knocked out, they tell her a message.
Remember this. Covered face. Shroud of shame. No escape when you're to blame. Cry me a river. Back to the start. Dog, deliver alive part.
The two of them are rushed to the hospital, where Aaron is taken to emergency surgery where he remains for nearly the rest of the episode. Throughout the runtime, the show periodically goes back to show the surgery and the polarizing success of it. Meanwhile, Selena and the rest of the police department are left to figure out who did this. While at home for the night, the men go to Nolan's home, as well as Nyla's home, and this causes hell to break loose. Turns out there's dozens of these men who ambush Tim and Lucy while the rest of the LAPD come in to back them up. They find out that it's a group of ex-cons who were used as pawns to distract the LAPD, while a different group goes after a different target that will cause larger damage. This episode ends with no full resolution, and it's not even confirmed that Aaron is okay, as near the end of the episode, Aaron goes into code blue and is surrounded by doctors. What made this even worse was that this was the season finale, and people were left with the dark thought for close to a year that Aaron could be dead and didn't make it out, which is why this episode is at my number 2 spot. But before we head to the number 1 darkest episode of the show, I want to briefly talk about a few honorable mentions that either aren't as dark but are still noteworthy, or they have a very dark portion of an overall not so dark episode. Season 7, Episode 8, Wildfire. This was the episode where Liam Glasser burnt down that forest and caused Tim and Lucy to get stuck in the fire where they could have almost died if it wasn't for the fire shelter that they had. People were evacuated from their home. Liam's family was torn apart by his wife and son figuring out his lies, and the audience was able to see how Liam kills his victims by finding a victim in the house tied up in the shower covered in needles. Season 5, Episode 4, The Choice. This was when Rosalind Dyer decided to exact her last kill, and it was between two people, Bailey Noom or herself. Her gruesome plan was to trap Bailey in this contraption that would drown her and get her electrocuted to death, or she would force Nolan, Bailey's partner, to shoot her instead to save his wife, as a way to make a massive exit. While this doesn't work, it's really hard to watch the combination of Bailey slowly meeting her potential death, as well as Nolan having to be tortured with the thought of her death. Season 4, Episode 1, Life and Death. It is a pretty dark premise overall, but the extremely dark part of this episode is one specific scene. The scene where Lopez is shown to her room at LaFiera's home. After Lopez pushes back on LaFiera's demands, she hits Lopez with what is, in my opinion, the darkest line in the show.
But if you resist, Dr. Morales will put you into a twilight sleep and you will spend the next 3 months as an incubator. Not even conscious when your baby comes. And your life ends.
Season 2, Episode 10, The Dark Side. This episode is where we are introduced to Caleb Wright, and although the first 90% of this episode is pretty normal, once Lucy goes out with Caleb, he drugs Lucy and kidnaps her, then takes her away. The reason why this episode is counted as an honorable mention is because it directly segues into our number 1 darkest episode in the Rookie history. At number 1, we have Season 2, Episode 11, Day of Death, the most gruesome episode to take place in the show. And in this episode, the audience is subjected to the following: the possibility of a main character dying, the roller coaster of emotions from the rest of the cast trying to find her, and experiencing the hope slowly draining from Lucy throughout the episode. It continues off from where Caleb kidnapped Lucy. She is taken to a house in the middle of nowhere, where Caleb tattoos the date on her thigh, signifying the day that she was going to die. We find out that Rosalind is involved in Caleb's killings, and when Lucy attempts and fails to escape, Caleb buries her in a barrel outside instead, where she would never be found. Slowly, she's losing oxygen, losing sanity, and losing hope. With no way to save herself, she accepts her eventual death, singing to herself.
Stars shining bright above you. Night breezes seem to whisper, I love you.
But Caleb is uncovered and the LAPD find and shoot him. The problem with this? He didn't tell them where she was buried. This is where we were convinced that she was going to die, and we just had to watch it happen. But a miracle happened. Tim spots the ring that Lucy threw outside when she was jumping into the barrel, and he finds her. We end this episode with her in Tim's arms, barely conscious and needing to be rushed to the hospital. While there, we're left with her having to unpack what happened to her, and we end with Nolan talking to Rosalind, telling her that her secrets have been unsealed and that she has no more power. However, she says that she has one more, one that we don't find out until much later. And this concludes our list of the top 5 darkest episodes in The Rookie. Subscribe for more videos like this one, and thanks for watching.